Now, we all know that brisket's the best, but can we improve it? Welcome back to another edition of the FOGO Life. I'm your host, Captain Ron. So what we're gonna do this week is we're gonna try and make brisket better. We're gonna see if dry aging really makes it better. Now, you've probably seen dry aging, you've heard of dry aging. What is it? It's a completely different process. We're gonna use these things called UMAI bags. They come 3 to a package. They will allow you to dry age your beef, your meats, whatever you wanna do at home without having to have some $4,500 dry age refrigerator, okay? So, we're gonna put these in the UMAI bags. We're gonna dry age this brisket for 45 days, and we're gonna see how it comes out. Can we make brisket better? I think we can. Now, if you're not familiar with what dry aging is, let me give you a brief little synopsis on it. What it is, it's a method of taking your meats and dry aging it for 45 days. And normally it's done in a very controlled environment. These bags, you're allowed to do it in your regular refrigerator. What we want to achieve is we're gonna create, believe it or not, a layer of mold on the outside of it. It's gonna make the meat more tender. It's gonna give it more flavor. It's almost gonna give it a little bit of a nuttiness. Now, if it's all done correctly, we're gonna pull this thing out of here in 45 days and it's gonna have like a black coating on it, something like that. We're gonna trim that off, then we're gonna cook it. We're gonna have a super tender brisket. We're using a choice brisket, not prime this time. So we wanna go choice because we wanna allow all the fats in there to make this more tender and almost make it like a prime by the time it's done. Now, obviously, this brisket is a large piece of meat. The bags come in all different sizes. This one is made specifically for briskets and bone-in roast. They make them for ribeyes, strip loins, roasts, samplers. They make all kinds of different ones. This one they make specifically for a brisket, so you don't have to worry about fitting your brisket in, as long as it's under about 20 pounds or so. Our first step is pretty interesting. What we need to do is cut this bag open, and we want to drain out all the extra juices out of here. So I'm going to use my little prep tub here. You need something that you can put in. So you want to cut open the widest part of the meat so that we can slide the meat out. We're going to slide it out of here directly into the UMAI dry bag. So we're going to chop this open and we're going to drain the meat. Now, in this process, you know, we want only good bacteria, so you want to try and touch the meat as little as possible. We don't want to introduce new bacteria into the meats. Next part we're going to do here is we're going to cuff this back like 3 or 4 times. Okay, so that the opening is well covered because we want to get a good seal on this. So we're going to get this wrapped around there. Okay. And just sort of push your meat out of its original packaging into the bag. Just like that. Now that went smoothly. Because these bags are so big, like to fit a whole brisket like this, the bag itself is actually wider than a vacuum sealer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create a 45-degree angled seal. We're gonna seal it like that. Then it comes with these little pads right here. It's called a breather, so we're gonna put that right in there and then seal the other side too. This way we can have a complete seal and it's gonna work out perfectly. As it's vacuuming, you can feel free to try and help the air out of it a little bit. You don't have to get every bit of air out, but every little bit helps. So as I've touched on before, just because we vacuum sealed it doesn't mean it's vacuum sealed. These bags are porous. They're gonna have a little bit of air in them still, so that's okay. What we wanna be able to do is have the bag be able to breathe. So we're up to the next step, which is into the refrigerator for the next 45 days. So let's head inside and hit this in the fridge. And here we are at our 30-day mark on our dry aged brisket. So it's looking good. You can definitely see a massive change in color here. The fat on the top has picked up color, everything. You know what else? It's solid as a rock. So it's like really stiff now too. You can see the bottom. The fat cap doesn't really change color too much like this. You can see it has some big, good dark spots, but the top, the meat is really where that dry aging is coming in. You can see a change in color. It's gonna be something fantastic. So we got about 15 more days to go till we cook this baby up. I can't wait. I have been wanting to do this for so long, and I love the way this is coming along. Now, you notice on these UMAI dry bags too, that they're not, remember when we did it, they're not vacuum sealed all the way. There is a little bit of air in there. It lets gases in and out. That's necessary for the dry age process. That's how these bags work so well. So if you see a little bit of air in there as you're doing this, that's A-okay. Don't worry about it. And now, back to the refrigerator.
1, 2, 3, go!
Okay, our day has finally arrived, 45 days later. I can tell you this, my family's gonna be very happy to have the space left back in the refrigerator again. So, but this thing is so cool. First of all, it's like hard on the outside. It is really cool. So I can't wait. I wanna just rip this thing right open and start trimming because I think this is gonna be really cool. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to cook it. I'm definitely excited to taste it. Now let's get to work and start trimming this thing. Now this looks absolutely perfect. You want that dark discoloration. You want the multi-levels of colors. You want everything that we're seeing here. This got so hard down here, it's almost like a bone. You can knock on that like knocking on wood. So this is actually really cool. There's so much I want to talk about here, but I'll try and keep it down to a minimum. I don't want to bore you guys. But the color is amazing. But like I said, it almost looks like it's got a plasticky coating on it, and it's fairly hard. The outside is actually fairly hard, which is pretty amazing. It's really, it's formed to a bag. You can see like where the wrinkles in the bag were and everything. This is really pretty amazing. The fat side, you can see it turned a whole different color. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna trim all of this discolored stuff, and if we did it right, it should be a much darker red meat underneath here. So I cut this first piece off. You can see the meat is a beautiful dark red here, but look at the difference. Look how deep it penetrates, you know, it penetrates. Geez, I'd say that's 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch that it actually penetrated. So we're gonna get all of this color off. So like I said, it's gonna take a while, so let's get to finishing trimming. Because we trimmed a lot of the discoloration off, we did trim off a lot more of the fat cap on the backside than what we would normally do. So you can see this giant section here would normally be covered with fat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same process we used here. We're gonna put a little moisture in the bottom of our pan. We're gonna put this baby right on there like that. And we're gonna go fat cap up on the big green egg. So let's get her lit. As you can see, we have a bunch of charcoal left over here from our last cook that we did. So the nice part about this is I could just grab my kick ash basket and give it a couple shakes like that. It clears all the old ash out. And when you can see in the bottom, okay, well, I shook a couple pieces out too, but now all that ash is in here. We can just wipe this out real easily and get it started. Our fire started out, so we're gonna do something cool. We're gonna add some smoking wood. We're gonna use our bourbon block. Good Lord, I could drink these things. But anyway, we're gonna use about 4 of these. I'm gonna put them right around here. These are made from actually bourbon barrels that were used to store bourbon while I was aging. I'm gonna put 4 of these right around and on top of the fire. Let that catch as it's burning. Hopefully we'll get some smoke for about the first hour, hour and a half of this cook. Now, let's get this brisket seasoned. As I said before, we're gonna use a little bit less salt than what we would normally use on our brisket. So normally I'll use like a 50-50 mixture of salt and pepper. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our super coarse black pepper here. If you don't have this, put some peppercorns in a bag and crush them up. But I got a 1/2 cup measuring cup and kosher salt. It's coarse salt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the same measuring cup. I'm just not gonna fill it quite as much. I'll probably fill it 3/4 of the way, maybe half, something like that. Last step before we put this brisket on and get this dry age beauty smoking is we're gonna add some water to the water pan. Now we discovered in our video a couple weeks ago that we can use this, and this is a great way to do a fat cap up brisket in a big green egg, okay? And it doesn't allow it to dry it out. It keeps that bottom section beautiful and doesn't get it all crispy and crunchy so you have to throw it out. So we're gonna have a fat cap up brisket in here, dry age, 45-day brisket, smoked. It's gonna be phenomenal. Now let's get this baby loaded and get smoking. So our dry age brisket is on, it's smoking. We're gonna let that go at about 250 degrees today. That's what I like to cook my briskets at. Some people like to go a little hotter, hot and fast. Some people like to go a little lower. I find 250 is a perfect temperature on the big green egg. So, like I said, we're gonna let this go. We are gonna do our wrap. So we're gonna use the Texas crutch and wrap it at about 165, 170, and then go from there. So I'm curious to see how this thing is gonna work out. I'm curious to see if the timing is gonna be different on how long it takes, everything like that. So it's gonna be an interesting experiment together. I'm glad we're sharing this together. Now, big question. I asked you before, what should I do with this? Do you think we should make tallow out of the dry aged trimmings? I don't know. Tell me below in the comments. All right. You all better appreciate what we're doing here because it's about 175,000 degrees out here in South Florida right now. So the good news is we have reached a wrapping point. We are at 168 actually. Whoa, we went past 165. So 168. Oh, I wish you could smell that. That smells so good. We're gonna pull this out, we are gonna wrap it now. One thing I know that I forgot to show you is that we are using our meter thermometer here to monitor our temperatures, so we wanna just point that out because the thing works great. But now comes time to wrap in paper. We are going with pink butcher's paper here today. Voila, as such. You can use foil, you can use paper. I just did one in foil, I gotta tell you, I might be going back to that, I don't know, but for now, we're gonna stick with butcher paper. And for the second half of the cook, I think I'm gonna turn it over, do it just like that. And back on the egg it goes. And next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna let this cook till about 195 or so. when you dry age this, we usually don't have to cook it to as high of a temperature, so we're probably gonna be under the 203 mark that we would normally go do with a brisket, but 195 should do it. Plus, hey, it saves a little time. I don't ever mind saving a little time. So let's let her sleep now. Guess what, folks? Here we are 6 hours later. That's right, 6 hours later. And our brisket is done. It's actually at 198 and it is probing like butter, baby. So we're gonna take this off of here. Oh God, it smells heavenly. Now, of course, as you all know, we can't just open her up and rip right in and dig in. No, we gotta rest it. So, transfer it over, done. You can put blankets on top of this if you want to. The Cambros are really, really efficient, so I really don't need to do that in here, but if you're using a cooler, I might recommend putting a towel or something like that on top of it. We're gonna rest this at least 1 hour. You can go 2, 3, 4 hours if you want to. We're gonna rest it for at least 1 hour. It's gonna allow all those juices to reabsorb, redistribute, make it the most tender, juicy, tastiest brisket we can imagine. So, I'll be back in an hour. Oh yeah, I think it's gonna pass the bend test. I think it's gonna be okay. I think we'll be all right. So we take our meter out of there. It didn't really make that noise, I did. And let's unwrap her and see what we've got here. Oh my God, these juices are flowing like a river. I tell you what, that is pretty impressive. I mean, really, it's tender. It is, you can see how pliable it was. It really passed that bend test beautifully. So when I tasted it, it's actually got, to me, it's got like a beefier flavor. You can taste that funk just a little bit. You know, you're supposed to get a little bit of that funk. It's almost like a cheese kind of, like a blue cheese kind of thing that creates on the outside when you cut that off. You can sort of kind of taste a little touch of that, but the one word that keeps coming back into my mind is beefier. It almost gives me a beefier flavor than what a normal brisket would be. I gotta tell you though, it's fantastic. Those UMAI dry bags, that worked like a champion. You know, you see something different like that and it's a little bit different in a dry age refrigerator and you go, okay, it doesn't work. This thing worked like a champion. I mean, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. So I'm pretty impressed with that. It's like me, dry aged. But again, just to repeat, super moist, super tender, absolutely flavorful. I'm going to be doing this again. I can tell you that. It's something that I've always wanted to try, and I'm really glad I did it because now I know this is easy to do at home. You don't need a $1,000, $2,000 refrigerator to do it. You can use those bags and get the perfect, really good product. So that's all I have. I really enjoyed this. If you saw anything that you liked that we used in here, any of the products we used or anything, there's a link in the description below. Feel free to check them out, learn more about them. If you want them, grab them, whatever you want to do. So. Don't forget to tune in, subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and leave us a comment down below. Have you ever dry aged anything? Have you ever used a dry bag? It's a really interesting process, so I'd highly recommend it. So before I do anything else, I want you to remember to get out and grill. That's right, get out and grill, and I'll see you the next time on the FOGO Life.